Okay. It's time to try to do some things that we can only do when Kim isn't around. Namely, removing those ceramic boots.
The bear's eyes are still glowing red. It's guarding over the freezing corpse hidden inside its belly.
Try to remove the dead man's boots.
The body is reluctant to let go of the boots, as though it were its last bit of dignity. Whatever you're planning to do, you need to do it before you catch pneumonia in the cold draft coming from deep inside the fridge.
Pull on the right boot.
It's not completely useless. You're able to reveal a little more of the putrid polymer sock beneath the boot.
Pull on the left boot.
It feels like the leg is going to come off along with the boot, but you're able to get the boot to move a centimeter or two. See? The corpse doesn't care if you try to take his boots. He doesn't need them. He's probably glad to get rid of them.
Try to twist off the boots one by one.
This is the right method. It takes some time, but eventually the boots come off, with nasty slices of polymer sock stuck to even bigger pieces of skin and rotting flesh.
Take stock of the damage.
Not good. Let's pin this on the bear. The ice bear tore up his legs with its claws. As for the boots, you can't possibly do anything with them until you've cleaned and disinfected them thoroughly. Yes, these absolutely need to be washed before. The stink is incredible. Didn't the Whirling have a kitchen?
While we're up, let's also go and talk to the representative from the logistics company.
A striking woman leans against the cabin top of her sailing boat, smiling as you approach. Her green raincoat glistens with droplets. A silk scarf is tied around her throat.
Good morning, officer. I'm Joyce.
She extends her hand in greeting.
Joyce L. Messier. I represent the board of Wild Pines, the owners of the harbor. You must be from the RCM.
She steps closer and holds out her hand over the railing. We'll shake it.
I'm glad to see you here.
Her grip is tight and cold.
I was dispatched to handle a strike, not a lynching. Anything I can do to assist the RCM in this matter, I will, gladly.
Tell me about Wild Pines. What do you do?
What we do? I'm afraid I don't speak for Wild Pines as a whole. It's a giant undertaking.
There was a touch of discomfort there. She wants to merely represent.
So what do they do?
The Pines' core competency is logistics. Container shipping, freight, that sort of thing. See those airships there, blinking? Those are the shipping side of things. And that is the terminal. Another subdivision deals with energy, oil and gas exploration, offshore platforms.
The Wild Pines Group is one of the original Revacholian Indo-tribes. Companies awarded royal monopolies by the king, the suzerain himself, centuries ago. The king is long gone, but several of the Indo-tribes remain.
Who are the other Indo tribes?
Son Baptiste, Elysium, an unknown entity known as Brightest Star.
You're in good company, it seems.
Why, thank you.
She does not register the meaning of this remark. How much money does Wild Pines have?
I'm not at liberty to discuss the company balance sheet, but I can tell you that last year, the company booked more than 20 billion real in revenue.
That's it? I thought Wild Pines was supposed to be big time.
And to think, there are years when the group books losses in the billions.
A wave hits the sloop. She grasps the mainstay for balance.
Walpines employs 72,000 people, all of whom have families that depend on their salaries. It is a tremendous responsibility.
Where does Wild Pines get all these billions?
They started as an exploration and cargo fleet conducting trade between the Samaran and Insulindian Isolas 250 years ago, when Pine ships explored the South Seminese and charted Lomantang on behalf of the suzerain. Centuries of care, deliberation, and madness have gone into this endeavor. Vessels pass through the great unrest to re-emerge with apricots in tow. The logic of the system is totalizing. It's taken everything from its employees to build it.
It probably helps to start out with a royal monopoly.
You know more than you let on. Certainly it helped, but most of the original Indo tribes have failed or been absorbed. To survive, Wild Pines had to grow and adapt. No suzerain did that.
What does such a huge system want with a place like this?
You mean aside from being the terminal's legal owners, who are responsible for moving 8% of the world's cargo?
8% of all cargo in the world? That's quite the endeavor indeed.
There are no minor cogs in the system. Each terminal must be accounted for, lest the entire system break. Every hiccup in such a system means thousands lose their jobs, the world over. I'm here to assure that doesn't happen.
With your help, hopefully, says her warm tone.
Thank you, that's all for now.
Of course, Detective. Take care.
Let's go ahead and internalize this new thought. The 15th Indo tribe. The problem? Wild Pines, Feld, Kupri, Tricentennial, Villiers-Nassau. Names of Revacholian Indo tribes spring into your head. Set loose at the mention of Wild Pines. Royal monopolies, octopuses and swordfish, most of them gone now. YBP, Expander, Saint Baptiste, Brightest Star, LUM, Resplendent, East Insulindic, Welter, and Eclaset. But isn't one missing? Wait, no. There were only 14. Then why do you feel like there was a 15th Indo tribe?
You're back. Good. What can I help you with at this late hour?
It's night. Don't you ever sleep?
Matter of fact, I don't.
Why is that?
It's a medical thing. It's called old. I'm old, you see.
Well, that's good. This way you can answer me some questions.
Of course. That's what I'm here for.
What can you tell me about this strike?
Everything. Right up to, but not including, trade secrets.
What is your role in this precisely?
I believe the official title is Senior Labor Negotiator. In practice, I'm a grocery clerk. I relay the union's demands to Wild Pines and return with Wild Pines' counteroffer.
How are these talks going?
They're not. That's the problem. The union stopped all negotiations a week ago, after that awful lynching took place. Now they won't even let me into the harbour. There's a 2-meter-20 racist behemoth blocking the gates.
Tell me more about this behemoth.
What can I say? The union employs a giant covered in tattoos. A racist giant. I guess that's part of their big tent organization now.
How are these talks going before the lynching?
Let's say I was not making the kind of progress I'd hoped for when I first arrived.
How long have you been here?
I arrived 3 weeks ago. Yes, in the middle of February. The bay was still partially frozen then. I prefer to do these things on site, like the RCM. I wasn't the original negotiator here. I took over after Mr. Gaumont hit a wall with Mr. Clare, the union boss. Mr. Clare refused to speak with Gaumont despite concessions he'd granted the union in prior negotiations.
What happened then?
The union won significant concessions, including overtime pay and a medical plan. This time their demands are more, I guess you could say, aggressive.
Ludicrous even. It's meant.
What happened to this Gaumont?
Mr. Clare told him to... how did he put it?
She pauses to compose herself.
Fuck off, midget. Gaumont is short of stature, you see.
Okay then.
Yes. Keep in mind, this is a negotiator Mr. Clare has worked with before, and who was more than fair with him and the union.
What are their demands?
There are leaflets everywhere, and banners. What did they say again? Oh yes. Every worker, a member of the board.
Most of the workers probably don't know what that means.
I like it.
Then you might also like their other slogan. Demand democracy.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Personally, I don't think it has the same pizzazzo as every worker, a member of the board.
What do they mean by it though? What's the demand?
It's quite simple, you see. Every time the Wild Pines group makes a decision about what, about anything really, it needs the signature of each of the 2,200 workers in its Martinez terminal. Just so you understand, this is but one of 22 terminals owned by Wild Pines. Essentially, not only are they kings of the company, they are also kings of the 72,000 employees of Wild Pines Group.
The king is dead. Long live the workers.
That may well be. It's not up to me to decide who is king, but as negotiations go, it's not a swell start.
What are you going to do?
I'm not sure. Naturally, I assume that was just their opening position, a hard-nosed tactic with a side of mockery. But there's been no follow-up, just the same nonsensical slogan repeated over and over again. And now, people are getting lynched, I hear. Behind the whirling in rags. A disastrous situation if there ever was one.
The scabs at the gate. Did you put them there?
The scabs? You mean the huddled masses of Jamrock, come to plead for work where the union refuses to? If they were organized by Wild Pines or its affiliates, then it would be a company secret. I could not share it with you. Not right now, at least.
It's implied. She's open to discussing this matter with you at a later occasion.
Tell me about this union boss, Mr. Clare.
Everard Clare is a man of the utmost integrity. If you can say one thing about him, it's that he always puts the interests of the workers first.
Really?
Of course not. Everard is fantastically corrupt. I imagine he has a thick, viscous goo where you and I have blood.
Is he that bad?
He is the most corrupt individual I have ever seen, and I deal with men like him for a living. If there is anyone more venal, more irredeemably nepotistic, then it's his twin brother, Edgar.
Wait, there are two of him.
Yes, Edgar looks exactly like his brother, except for that lazy eye. He also talks exactly like Everard does, and when one's term as foreman is up, the other takes over. It's how they circumvent the term limits, you see, with a funny little switcheroo. While in office, they've embezzled God knows how much of their workers' dues.
What about the union itself, outside of the Brothers Clare?
The Débardeurs Union was once a perfectly normal institution. 20 years ago, anyway. It must not have been easy to establish under the Emergency Act, but they did it. I can respect that. Organised labour at its best, as they say. Then something happened in the local chapter elections. The Brothers Clare came and transformed it into a... how do you say?
She hesitates, looking for the right expression. An effective advocate for the rights of local working men.
Why do you think so?
Her voice is calm. There is only curiosity there.
What she calls corruption is simply an aesthetic category.
Talking in aesthetic categories is the privilege of the overclass. From what I've seen, most people are just trying to survive.
Point taken. But enough about Everard. What else can I do for you?
One more thing. You said something happened in the elections.
I'm glad you asked. There was a woman, the previous forewoman of the Union. She disappeared.
Disappeared.
Yes. On the last day of the local chapter elections, her daughter phoned in and said she wasn't running anymore, or coming to work. Ever. End of story.
Eerie.
Downright haunting, if you ask me. The Wild Pines suspected foul play, but what could they do? It was a Union matter. The point of the presentation is, these kinds of things happen around the Clares. Watch out when you're dealing with him.
That's all I need here. Let's change the topic.
Of course. How else can I help?
What can you tell me about this lynching?
Quite a few things, I'm afraid.
She falls silent for a moment, contemplating something.
The information I'm to share with you includes sensitive trade secrets. For the sake of my employer, I have to ask for your name and badge number.
The thing is, I don't have a badge at this moment.
What happened to it, Detective?
Awkwardness washes over the conversation. The woman doesn't like this turn of events.
I've recently suffered from an unusual medical episode. My lost badge is related to it.
I see. So, are you saying you lost your badge during the course of this episode?
I could have eaten it for all I know. I don't remember anything. This world, this city, nothing.
Oh dear. Some kind of encephalopathic amnesia. I don't even know how to respond. I do believe you, naive as that may sound. I simply can't imagine what you gain by faking such a condition. However, this isn't about my feelings. There's also protocol to consider. I'm afraid I can't say any more until I've seen that badge.
Hang on. She's a professional negotiator. She should be open to some sort of mutually beneficial arrangement.
How do I negotiate my way out of this?
Feelings will guide the way.
But, madam, I need to know about this lynching. It's very important to me as this case I'm solving.
I assure you, it is no small matter for me either. We all share the responsibility for disarming this situation. I hope you have a badge for me as soon as possible.
You don't understand. It's not like a side case for me. This is my main thing.
Trust me, officer, I am fully committed to resolving this impasse. This isn't some side gig for me.
You have so much else. I have only this. This is the entirety of my existence.
She's silent. The wind flaps the sail above her.
This boat, for example, in a home somewhere. I only have this case.
Officer,
This case is what I will be known by.
you know, I don't mean to sound cold, but if you want something, you have to give something back. More than just guilt.
You're doing it. Despite your own best efforts, you're still getting in. Somehow.
I'll be frank with you. If I'm going to break protocol, I need to be able to justify it to my superiors. They're going to want to see something tangible.
Like what?
The Union is conducting drug trade out of the harbour. It's an open secret in Martinez. Surely it must not come as a complete surprise to the RCM either. Perhaps it's time to look into it. Or you can find your badge, which honestly seems like a lost cause.
You seem smart. I need someone to give me a lowdown on this reality that we're in.
This reality.
She pulls her hood closer about her neck.
Yes, reality is your side case. An experimental side case.
It's related to the medical episode. I have trouble remembering even the most basic terms of reality.
Ah, yes, the episode. Sounds like an acute case of encephalopathy now that I think of it.
She puts down her thermal cup and looks at you.
But then I'm no doctor. Ask away, officer. I'll help however I can.
All right, we're in. I know these all look good, but begin with the first, okay?
Where are we?
We're in Martinez, baby.
Baby.
A casual term of endearment popular among the 50-plus crowd. It's a disco holdover, pay it no heed.
I'm a disco holdover myself.
Aren't we all?
She refers to your corresponding ages.
And what is Martinez?
Martinez is a district of Revachol. A very small district tucked away near the industrial harbour, north of the 881 and Jamrock. You would be excused for not knowing about it. Unimportant, they say. Forgotten, even. Shelled to smithereens during the Revolution. It has its charms, just not this time of year.
Tell me more about Martinez.
I'm not a good ambassador. I've only been here once before, as a teenager. Not a lot has changed. There are ruins, a terminal, fishing boats, reeds, boys with boxy shoulders. This place used to be a province, a workers' resort before the city swallowed it and the artillery did its work. The reeds are the real star of the show here now. The further down the coast, the wilder it gets.
You mentioned a sea. What sea is this?
It's not really a sea, it's the Bay of Revachol. And the bay feeds into the ocean.
Are we near the ocean?
Yes. We're on an island in an ocean, the world's largest body of water, the Insulindic.
Known to the early Revacholians as Les Immensités Bleues, the blue immensities. Vast, lukewarm and unknowable, flowing in and out of sight.
What's the name of this island?
Caillou. Imagine a pebble. A smoothed-over pebble amidst a great blue sea, misshapen, cracked. The cracks are the river Esperance. We're in the delta of this river, on the 6th branch, the Martinez distributary.
It is clear this pebble is of enormous value to her and to humanity at large.
Tell me about another, perhaps even more fundamental aspect of reality.
I would be happy to. What is a preposterously expensive education for, if not sharing?
What times are these?
These are unimportant times, Detective. You and I were born after the dust had settled. 1,000th of a second too late.
Too late for what?
For the big time.
Her eyes light up. There's a flash of teeth. What's the big time?
The revolution.
And what is this revolution I keep hearing about?
It's quite easy. Every 100 years or so, our species gets together to decide what's next, who gets shot in the head, and who gets the mineral rights. It's a real kerfuffle.
Who got shot in the head?
Those would be the communists. Generally speaking, 40 million people got shot in the head during the World Revolution. But the communists, they all got shot in the head. Oh, and the anarchists too. They shot them well. So well, one forgets they even existed.
She likes the totality of it.
You could say they got totally shot in the head.
Indeed. They piled them in mass graves in Ozon. And, well, that's the last anyone heard of those people.
Did the communists and the anarchists shoot back?
Did they ever? Before they got shot themselves, they shot 2 million people.
Sounds like they should have shot more people in the head then.
Don't worry. Klas Mazov shot 15 million people in the head. But that was all the way over in Grad.
Anyone else gets shot in the head on the opposing side?
Oh, lots of people. Even the king got shot in the head, or thrown beneath a horse, or drowned. Accounts differ. It was unceremonious. Just as well, he wasn't actually the king. Just the king's nephew. The real king abdicated and lived out a long and productive life as a venture capitalist in Grad.
Smart king.
Yes. King Guillaume had a nose for bad PR. He ran before it. What is the expression? Went down? Anyway, Gil got out alive and his nephew Frisell got shot in his place. Him and tens of thousands of his wonderfully fascist kingsmen. It was a wild time.
Who got the mineral rights?
The liberals got the mineral rights. And by mineral rights, I mean everything.
Okay, and by liberals you mean...
Liberals are usually middle-class people, Detective. Or the remaining gentry. The beneficiaries of the pre-revolutionary arrangement. Some were rich enough to stay with the Constitution, with monarchy. Big mistake. Others bet on the revolution. They were called the ultras, or ultra-liberals. They fared well.
How did the liberals win it all?
They didn't win so much as survive. We were the last ones standing when the war ended. Everyone else got shot in the head, remember?
She's one of them. Of course.
If everyone got shot, who was there to surrender to?
To foreign intervention. The coalition. Those people really took the mineral rights.
Wait, you just said the liberals already took everything.
The liberals took everything that wasn't nailed to the ground. The coalition took the ground. The ocean, the laws, and the people.
Who are the coalition?
The coalition of nations. Grad, Mesk, Vesper, Messina, Oranje, and Sur-la-Clay, the armed center of the world. They landed here and ended the revolution. It was the moralist thing to do.
There is bitterness in her voice, tempered with understanding. She is critical, but ultimately understands the cause.
Moralist.
The moralists believe in keeping everything exactly the way it is. They believe in mineral rights, and not shooting people in the head. At least not in the same manner and volume as the others do. They are the long-standing provisional rulers of Revachol now, the coalition government. This is their zone of control. They embolden the RCM with crumbs of the same law they took. Technically speaking, you are a moralist.
The color of moralism is blue. The official motto of Moral Intern, or Moralist International, is a blue forget-me-not, a piece of grey sky. Unofficial. For a moment, there was hope.
I don't think I'm a moralist, ma'am.
Of course. Not easy to be moderate about head shooting in your line of work.
When was this kerfuffle?
The turn of the century revolution? Don't answer it. It's a trick question. The revolution began in '02 on the Isla of Grad, though by the end nearly the whole world had gotten involved.
Who started it?
It wasn't a who, but a what. A pandemic of Zarat, a particularly virulent prion disease, which the authorities in Grad proved unable to contain. Then Mazov came along and overthrew the government.
What did this Zarath do?
It made people overthrow their governments.
Wow, really?
Of course not. It was a highly infectious microorganism that destroyed brain tissue. The actual causes of the revolution were material. The pandemic only provided the spark.
Where did it spread from there?
From Revachol and Grad? Not far. The world managed to cauterize itself. Mazov's government was overthrown in '08, and the coalition crushed the Revachol commune 2 years later. It was the end.
What came next?
Why? You and I, officer. Our lives in the zone of control.
Something tells you her life and yours are not that similar. Maybe it's because she has a boat and you have that necktie? A pair of pants?
Our lives are very different from each other.
No doubt. But we share the same time and position on the planet's crust. That counts for more than you think.
What is the zone of control?
A city-state divided into free market zones under the everlasting interregnum of the Coalition of Nations. And you, of course, the citizens' militia.
The clatter of typewriter keys fills the main hall of the reappropriated silk mill. Precinct 41. Chad Tilbrook presses enter. Outside, Officer elf boy Williams slams the door of an armored motor carriage.
The Zone of Control is the third incarnation of Revachol, after the failure of the Suzerain and the Commune.
What happened in the rest of the world?
Modernity. They developed the marvels of the inter-eastlery communication. Telematic milieus, radiation, colored plastics. Meanwhile, in Revachol West, the aftermath continues for the 5th decade.
51 minus 8 equals 43.
Wait, you're saying it's been like this for 43 years?
Time flies.
What have we been doing all that time?
The 20s saw a decade of urban war, west of the river leveled, offshore platforms in flames. Still, it's regarded as an improvement on what came before. 08 to 19 was simply hell.
And after that?
The 30s? Things settled down in the 30s. Revachol East transformed itself into the world's largest tax haven, with the international community's blessing. For the first time in a long time, it seemed like things were going somewhere.
Were they?
No. It was a market mirage fueled by cocaine and quantitative easing. The 40s dispelled it like a cold splash, an Isla-wide hangover, you might say. And here we are. Welcome to reality, baby.
For her to be where she is, Wild Pines Group must have picked the right side.
Which side was Wild Pines Group on?
They picked the winning side. That's why they're here, and others are not.
They got lucky.
Perhaps it wouldn't have turned out that way had I been in charge. I might have bet on the king and led the Pines to doom.
You would have sided with the king.
I would have sided with the cannons. If you'd seen the calibers of the things, you might have too. Perhaps it's better I was born when I was. 10 of the 14 Indo tribes got it wrong. Feld, Kupri, Tricentennial. So I suppose I would have been in good company.
She narrows her eyes, turning her gaze to the future out of professional habit. All she can see are vague outlines of a great winding down. The doldrums. People killed, but no great transitions of wealth. It makes her feel old, and something else. Something you can't put your finger on.
What would you have done differently?
Good question. What would you have done differently?
I would have positioned myself very precisely. I would have made it out with the mineral rights.
You and everyone else. But that's got nothing to do with preventing the revolution. Ah, well. What was, I guess.
That's enough about the times.
They are what they are. Who knows? An afterbloom may yet come. Anyway, enough sentimentality. Is there anything else you want to know?
Not so fast. Who is she in all this? Ask her who she is. She owes you an answer.
I want to know what you are. What are you?
I am the vilest of the vile. A traitor. A devourer of nations and infants. I am an ultra.
Dios mío, a liberal.
Yes. I am the nether creature of the Forbidden Swamp. I pushed the king under a shit wagon and betrayed the revolution. My kind surrendered the nation to financial colonists. I can see you thought our kind were all extinct. After all, no sane person identifies as this anymore. Not in broad daylight. I can see we're not so different, you know. Tell me, now that I've uncoiled myself, do you find me frightening?
In her green eyes you see a mixture of truth and self-satire. Decades of guilt and pride.
I forgive you, but only because you're charming.
A devil, who being of great charm and guile sneaketh into the homes of the godly.
That dialect is Ubi sunt. You recognize it's a quote from somewhere. A play. written way back in the Franco-Nigerian century.
And persuades them to addict themselves to his service.
Ah, maybe you remember more than you let on, despite whatever brain damage the alcohol may have inflicted.
Vile devil.
I hope we're able to continue as friends, despite my scaly bulk and my intimidating liberal credentials. This was not the plan all along. When the dust settled, the liberals were the only ones left to clean up the mess. By virtue of their survival, they were handed enormous power to shape the future. This was all our last generation managed.
Would you have done something differently?
With due respect to our overlords, the eternal caretaker government that keeps Martinaise a monument to the efficacy of its artillery, I would not have relinquished sovereignty to the coalition. Not here in Martinaise, and not in the Stella Maris or Delta Beachheads either. If not for my own sake, then for my daughters. We had an obligation to defend our sovereignty. We should have burned the whole Isola down rather than let them have it.
Dark orange flames reflect in her green eyes, an oil fire on the ocean.
You're a smart woman.
Perhaps. My intellectual vanity will be my undoing.
You're no dummy yourself.
So am I.
A smart boy getting smarter, one basic term of reality at a time.
So you're a patriot.
Yes, I suppose I am. But I wouldn't be a patriot anywhere but here.
You have daughters.
Yes. Whatever else I am, I'm also a mother and a wife. Now, shall we return to reality?
What is this acute encephalopathy?
It's a neurological disorder caused by a lack of vitamin B in the brain. Symptoms include a retrograde amnesia. It's quite serious. You should get yourself checked out.
She conveys it in short, cold bursts, trying not to invest too deeply in the condition of this doomed detective. In case he goes down later, souring the entire portfolio.
What causes encephalopathy?
Well, it's either bariatric surgery or long-term alcohol use.
It's definitely the drinking.
She nods slowly.
Yes, and perform autoerotic asphyxiation on yourself with your funny necktie, out in the open somewhere.
What is this? Spread your hands.
A bird? A sphenicid? A flightless bird of the polar regions?
Keep guessing.
Some sort of krill hunter? No, wait. You're an ancient ruin. A symbol of hubris and decay. Half submerged in some salty sea.
What, really?
Of course you're not, my dear. I'm just terrible at guessing games.
I meant, what is this place here?
Ah! This is the pier of Rue de Saint-Ghislaine, 33A, where the tenants have been kind enough to rent me a slot. Or two.
What is Rue de Saint-Ghislaine, 33A?
A pre-revolutionary tenement. Old buildings are called tenements, you see. And new buildings, bâtiments. After les bâtiments nouveaux. But 33A and 33B are not nouveaux. They're old.
She looks up at the crumbling facade.
This one used to be 8 to 10 stories tall. A real high-rise by the standards of the last century. Built to mirror the skyscrapers across the bay in the Delta. That was before the war, of course.
Who lived in them?
Mostly the urban middle class, I believe. This was once primo real estate, before the cannons lopped 4 or 5 stories off. Splat, splat.
From a dilapidated balcony, a young girl in odd clothes gives Joyce the evil eye, a red paintbrush held to her throat.
Wonderful.
What is that? pointing to Cindy the Skull.
The girl in the old lady rags?
Yes.
Looks like a sullen and rebellious member of a teen infraculture.
Infraculture.
Yes, you and I belong to the supraculture. We're common, the herd. The music on the radio, the food in the chain restaurant, those are all too popular for the girl in the old lady rags. She prefers a fantasy world, an infraculture with its own dress code and vernacular. It is an illusion, I'm afraid. There is no refuge from the supraculture.
I understand everything. Make it more complicated somehow.
I can't. That's how simple it is. One may dye their hair green and wear their grandma's coat all they want. Capital has the ability to subsume all critiques into itself. Even those who would critique capital end up reinforcing it instead. All right. What next?
Suddenly, you're not so sure you're part of the supraculture.
I think I may be a part of the infraculture.
And what would that be?
Disco.
I can see that, yes. I dabbled in those dark arts myself, not so long ago. I assure you, it was a thoroughly supracultural phenomenon. All permeating. Downright mandatory. Nothing infra about disco, baby.
Your disco.
Those days are long behind me. And even in the early 30s, I would say I was more of a new girl. Disco was a minor, but still enjoyable facet of the whole thing for me.
The new.
The new. A cultural era. And the name of the decade it ravished, the 30s. It came out of post-revolutionary Revachol. It was ultra-liberal. It involved lots of partying, as you might imagine, and champagne-coloured everything. By the looks of it, that would have been when you came of age. Now.
Sounds fun. I can't remember a single thing.
Wasn't it Guillaume Le Million who said, if you can remember the new, you weren't there?
For some reason, your mind is a veritable repository of Guillaume Le Million lyrics, trivia, and B-sides. But the time to explore this is when you're alone, facing a mirror perhaps. Right now, it would derail the reality lowdown.
What is...
6 kilometers southwest in the Valley of Dogs, Junior Officer Chad Tilbrook takes aim at a rabid black dog licking its wounds in the grass. To his left, his partner, Emil Mullins, whispers, "You heard what happened to Tequila Sunset in Martinez?" "Yes, he lost his mind," Tilbrook answers, fingers on the trigger. "Don't worry, Emil." He pulls it out slowly. Slowly now. He'll find it again. We always do.
What am I?
You? You're an officer of the RCM.
The Rivachol Civilians Militia.
Preciso mundo.
Good, and what is the Rivachol Citizens Militia?
Nothing more nor less than the de facto law enforcement body of post-revolutionary Revachol, Detective.
You said de facto.
Yes, that means not de jure. The RCM acts in what is poetically called the twilight of international law, both at the behest of the coalition government and to its chagrin.
What do you mean?
The RCM's responsibilities are defined by the Emergency, Wayfarer and Aliments Acts, 3 pieces of legislation keeping the city in a, let's be honest, laissez-faire stasis to the benefit of foreign capital.
So I'm basically a thrall to foreign interests.
There's nothing basic about your role, Detective. It's true that the RCM keeps everything the way our seemingly permanent provisional rulers like it. Yet, on the other hand, I know these people. I deal with them daily. Let me tell you, dear, they are not fans of you.
Why?
The post-revolutionary decade was a disaster for the coalition government. Revachol in the 20s was hell, especially on the west side of the river. Gang warfare, a botched privatization scheme, a nuclear pile meltdown, They called it the International Zone because no nation wanted to claim responsibility. The RCM restored peace where the Coalition failed. A true blue citizens' initiative. They will never forgive you. So permit me to conclude with this. Who you are to me is the police, the only legitimate law enforcement authority in Revachol.
Thank you, ma'am.
And if those authorities drink so hard they need help recalling the basic terms of reality, well, I'm here to help.
She bows and smiles. What is reaching for something fundamental?
A strange coldness comes over you as you look at the world. The waves sway the sloop slowly. That's all.
That's all for now.
Glad to have been of assistance. The little that I know. Anything else?
Thank you, that's all for now. Okay, now that we have our reality lowdown, let's head back to the Whirling in Rags and begin the next day where I'll leave off here.
The bed is cold and not particularly inviting, but it's yours. The sheets look awful.
Crawl in.
The sheets feel at once coarse and clammy against your skin. The bed sags beneath your weight as you stretch out and finally close your eyes. And then sleep doesn't come. And then sleep doesn't come.
Why?
Maybe it's the bed's fault.
Check the blanket.
It barely covers your toes, stretching over your soft belly. This is your body here, intimate and warm, breathing. Under your thrumming eyelids, you see a dizzying array of colors. You won't get off this carousel quite so easily.
Check the pillow.
Its synthetic filling has separated into hard lumps. The pillowcase smells oddly.
Roll over to the other side.
It's a little better. Colors, scenes, and half-formed phrases still litter your mind. Part of you is still trying to solve the case, isn't it?
Who killed him? Who?
Something to do with, what was it that the lieutenant said? Union? And it's gone again. Your thoughts lost between the slowing brain waves.
No more thoughts. Fall asleep now.
Your breathing steadies. A great silence washes over you until your eyelids twitch in your sleep and images start forming.
Do you remember the scent of your childhood?
What is this?
What it says on the can, Harry. Answer the question.
I was born in a hospital where people usually go to die.
You're not kidding anyone, Harry. You don't remember shit. Tell me, do you remember your wife's hand on your face?
Tell me what this is. I'm not answering before you tell me who you are.
You know who I am. I'm the bad day. The one where you ask her, and then later in the streets, wandering. It's the worst day of all time, Harry dear. And it's coming. She will hear about it on the phone. Reality will turn into a grotesque nightmare. This will be the last thing you did to her. Tell me, do you remember the love of your life?
You said, who?
Do you remember the warmth of her thighs, between her legs and in her mouth?
I left.
Oh no, funky baby, you stayed. It was the rest of it that left. Or you just stood there, with one hand on the bottle and the other on your dick, watching it go. Tell me, where are your friends? Human beings have friends, Harry boy. Where the hell are yours?
I can get it all back.
No, it's gone. 3 times gone and never coming back. You failed. You failed me. You failed Elysium.
What is Elysium?
Everything. The Pale and the Islas. On the surface. The outer magnetosphere. Burning, furious truth. 8,000 years of written history. You really dropped the ball, Harry. 4.6 billion people. And you failed every single one of them. You really fucked up.
I've talked to you before.
No, Harry. You were just talking to yourself. That's all you ever do. Even in your dreams. And the act is wearing thin. The spots of the disco ball fade around you. You'll be back in those cold snakeskins in no time. Sweating up the bed. Stinky boy.
I can come back from this.
You're not coming back from shit. Thrashing around in that high conductivity state of yours. Bumping into things and acting like a clown. Who are you kidding?
I'm trying to solve this case.
You're trying to what? I can't hear you. This is just a word dream now. Jumbled up garbage. The pictures are gone. The bed rises to meet you. A thin, sleep-like state. More glass than velvet, grinding in your head.
So something is wrong. Sleep shouldn't be this bad, this dry, this unnourishing. There's something wrong with your thoughts. Some kind of new type of hangover.
God, there's another type?
Oh yes, party boy, and it's worse than the one before. Just think of the shit you saw. Here it comes too. So soon already. A silent alarm goes off in your head like clockwork, barely let you sleep at all. Time to get those clothes on, Harry. Time to go to work in the shit factory.
Good going, buddy.
Is that how it's gonna be now when I close my eyes?
Yes. Wait till you see the one with the chick in it. It's gonna be a good one. You feel even worse this morning than you did last night.
What chick?
You don't know? You don't know? Some broad that messed you up. It'll come to you. It always does.
What the hell is going on with me?
You mean, why are you so tired? Too tired and down to even think? It is worrying, isn't it? You can't be a detective like this. Detectives need to be able to think.
Why is this happening?
It's just that your heart has finally pumped all the speed out of your system, Buster. Time to get some more. Don't do that. Stay strong. The hangover will wear off. You don't need to keep doing this to yourself.
I need to get more of it then. Detecting is my life.
Of course. Martinez is speed central. You just gotta poke around. Follow your nose. You and Speed will be happy again. You will make her come home. This time, it will be different.
And let's leave off here.